Hello, this is High Templar with my new Total War Warhammer DLC Speculation video, and today we'll be talking about Lizardmen army. Now, the Lizardmen, how I yearn to play Those guys are absolutely awesome, one of my favorites army, if not the most favorite army in the Warhammer tabletop, and I also like them very much, and I'm pretty sure I will like them very much in the Total War Warhammer. Now, I know I haven't been doing this series for quite some time, and this is the second part to the Lizardmen campaign video. If you haven't watched it, please do. But that was like almost three weeks ago. That was because of the King and the Warlord DLC. I needed to cover all of it, all the information, all the new units and stuff, so it took me some time. Now I'm going back to my DLC speculation videos as before. And yeah, let's jump into it. As you can see, quite gorgeous looking army. And here are some more units, so you can see it in all glory. And let's just start with the most basic ones. So these are the skins. So every unit in the Lizardmen army has scaly skin, as seen here. And the scaly skin in Total War Warhammer works differently than in tabletop, and it gives missile resistance, and the missile resistance those guys will need really like crazy. So this is a good thing. Unfortunately, missile resistance for the scaly skin is not a big one, just like 10%. So nothing great here, but it will help. There's also most of the units in the Lizardmen army have in the tabletop they have called skin ability, which actually makes them, well, not break much, but at the same time they usually attack last, so that is an issue. So in the Total War Warhammer that will be represented by relatively high morale. So we'll have another high morale army, and yeah, the skins are just basic low tier infantry. They are small, they're not like really small. They are relatively fast. As you can see, they can hold a spear and the shield. So I'm thinking units of 160 because they are really small. So 160 in a unit, and then costing around 350, 400, I'd say. They are, not goblins, they are significantly better than goblins. Even the morale itself would make them significantly better than goblins. In fighting itself, they might be similar, but So yeah, those guys 160 costing 300 and something. We might get a 120 unit, but it would have to be very, very cheap, and I don't think that will happen. Those guys will be the chaff you will use in a battle, but quite expensive one. Then we have the basic core of the Lizardmen army, and these are Saurus warriors. Those guys are very, very powerful, and here you have a variant with spears. But you can also have a variant with this weapon. And as you can see, there is one guy in the background having a mace, but this is Matiquad, and this is basically old Aztec weapon. So yeah, it really looks scary, but as you can see, won't be probably much of armor piercing. Anyhow, that's not that important. The Saurus warriors are a very powerful warriors, very high morale. They do have scaly skin, they do have shields, as you can see, and will be the core of your armies. With the numbers, I would say they should be either 120 or 100, because they are on the par with Chaos Warriors. I mean, yeah, okay, slightly less powerful than Chaos Warriors in the tabletop, but at the same time they are cheaper. So yeah, probably 120, maybe 100. and the cost will go around 700, I guess, something along those lines. They are slightly larger than humans, but you know, we've seen similar units like the ghouls or, I don't know, orcs, for example. Then we have, so yeah, those guys will be similar to biguns, I guess. They don't have much of armor, but they do have those scaly skins that should provide them with at least 30 armor. Around 700 cost, as I mentioned before. And we will have a spear variant, which is very cool. I mean, we do have a spear variant in the tabletop. I'm not sure if we will have one in the Total War. I would really like it, but because those guys don't really have anything that can stop cav units, it would be very cool. Then we have elite infantry, and those guys are the temple guards. And the temple guards are, as you can see here, armored. They are better equipped, and they are obviously more powerful. I would see them in a unit similar to Chosen, obviously less powerful than Chosen, but in the units of either 80 or 100, costing about 1000. So a solid infantry that would be what you would put against, I don't know, like great swords or the black orcs. Actually, those guys should be more powerful than black orcs. So maybe even more expensive than 1000, maybe 100, 1100, 1200 basically. Very, very powerful unit, very tough unit. I would really like to see those models in the game. Then we have basic skirmishers, and those are skink skirmishers. You have two, so 120 unit basically. And this is very important for the skinks to have goblin size units, so 160 and 120 for skirmishers, because skinks are skirmishers, but they are not powerful skirmishers. They do have two options, javelins and blowpipes. Unfortunately, these are not like human-sized javelins, so they should not be doing that much of a damage, and they should, I mean, okay, range for normal javelins is around 85-90 meters right now in the Total War Warhammer, but obviously if you put those guys up against any kind of skirmishers, like even goblins would outshoot those guys with 110 range. So very dangerous indeed. Blowpipes do have poison, so that's good. So we'll have probably normal skirmishers with javelins and then upgraded version, much like we have goblins and then night goblins. So yeah, would be interesting. Blowpipes also don't do much armor piercing damage, neither do javelins, so pretty much the same as goblins really. Then we have another upgrade, and these guys are chameleon skinks. They only have blowpipes, they do poison damage, they are, well, they will have stock ability, I would assume, because they are, you know, chameleon. Then we have a unit that we will not see in Total War Warhammer, and this is Jungle Swarm, because we already had a few swarms that were not implemented. And yeah, I don't think we'll, I mean, this is not feasible from the, I mean, it's feasible, but it's not practical from the engine perspective. It would just be too much of a work for your graphic card to do properly. So those guys are anyhow just something you would slow down an enemy and poison him on his way to your troops. Not really useful. Then going to the monster unit, we have some proper power, and these are Croxigors. Croxigors, these are large monsters, very powerful. They do have two-handed weapons practically chained into them. They are, well, they are monsters, they don't think much. So I would see them as 12 models a unit, I guess. maybe 24, but I think it really should be 12, and this should be not very expensive unit, like maybe 800, I would say. They should be basically similar strength to Crypt Horrors, for example. They do have decent morale, but they can run away. They will be better than Trolls, for example. So yeah. Then we have another monsters, and those guys are Stegodons. Stegodons would, if you would look at it, will remind you the Arachnarok spiders. They are smaller, but also they are much less vulnerable than Arachnarok spiders in the tabletop. Obviously, Total War Warhammer Arachnarok is everything but vulnerable, with huge armor and decent HP. But those guys also have a decent armor, they have scaly skin. And yeah, they have skinks with javelins on the platform, similarly as there is a platform with goblins on the Arachnarok. And this is probably a single monster unit that will cost teens of hundreds, I'd say, like maybe 12, because it's not that powerful and there is upgraded version. So yeah, pretty much like that. And then we have another monster unit called Bastillodon. Oh yeah, if you haven't if you haven't seen that, on the Stegodon you have a ballista. So that is something that will be a selling point of this unit. Not only it has skinks, it can shoot slightly, it is armored beast that you can charge in, but at the same time it can shoot at people with ballista shots. Not very powerful shots, mind you, because for example, single unit of bolt throwers for dwarves cost like 550 and there is like 4 of them. So single bolt thrower, and they are not doing that much. So single bolt thrower will not also do much, it will do a little bit of damage, but on the back of this beast it will be welcomed addition. So yeah, Bastillodon, another very powerful, very armored beast that is, as you can see, smaller than the previous one. But the interesting thing is what you can put on it, and they are some magical engines. Heavy armor of it would be very, very cool, because you wouldn't be able to take down this magical engine very easily. And the magical engines, there are like 2 options. One is casting fire spells, I mean bolts, whatever, at the enemy, which would be very interesting if it will be implemented in Total War game. I'm not sure if it will, because most likely what they will implement is the second option, and this is Ark of Sotek. Ark of Sotek is a magical engine that is basically shooting lots of very fast, lots of low powerful missiles at the enemy. So pretty much the same as Arachnarok. You have shooting goblins. In here you would be shooting something more powerful than arrows. And yeah, this will be like a walking turret, and this will be doing magical damage. So, you know, all those dwarf heroes that are ethereal and all those cane rights and everything like that should be very scary. Should be very scared of this one. I would really like to see this monster. I'm pretty sure it will be only single model and will be costing around 1000, although that might change a lot depending on how strong those guys will be. They are not really... they do have good armor, but they are not that tough, so they can be brought down. And this... basically this range attack is not that powerful, but if you manage to stay with it for a long enough time it can do pretty nice damage. Pretty much the same like gyrocopters. They do very little damage, but they can stay for a long time and just crack up those kills. Then we have Ancient Stegodon, which is very, very nice indeed. Not only that he has all those skinks there, but you can actually mount a skink priest on it, in tabletop at least. How it would be implemented in Total War Warhammer? I have no idea, but the Ancient Stegodon should be costing more than 1500, and it should be single beast. It should be doing this javelin attacks, and maybe possibly some kind of buffing. You can also mount Engine of Gods on it, which is clearly visible behind the priest. That is actually doing some buffs to the units around it. So this is similar like Mortis Engine and like Corpse Cards. So in this case, it is, for example, able to do a ward save to units around it. Not a big ward save, but a ward save. So yeah, that should be very interesting to see that unit in an actual battle. There are a few other options also for those Engine of Gods. Not sure which one will be implemented, so I'm sure not all of them. That's for taken. Although the corpse cards were implemented in 3 different ways, so you can hope, but I really don't think so. Then we are going to cav units, and starting with the cold ones. Cold One Cavalry is basically Sarius warriors on Velociraptors. So pretty scary stuff. Normally in tabletop they are quite expensive and therefore not very useful, but in the cav size of 60 they should be costing like 800 at least. They should be not like very fast, but they should be hard hitting, and those were obviously not a shock cav, rather melee cav, although charging Velociraptor should have a decent charge, like maybe 40 or so. And those guys are not very heavy armored, so probably they would lose to dedicated shock cav. But I don't know, maybe in prolonged combat they will be able to take those guys down. Very interesting to see this one. One of the very few units, pretty much the only normal cav unit that lizardmen have, so they should be like half decent. Then we have something called Troglodon. Troglodon is a large beast, as you can see. Here is mounted by a Squeak Priest, but in general Troglodons can be used as mounts, and I believe they will be used as mounts solely. You won't see a unit like that in a game. In a game they are very expensive, not that useful, but yeah. They are very nice looking models, and they could be implemented in the Total War setting very nicely. If there would be just a unit of 12 of them and they will be like very expensive, like cav monsters similar to Dragon Ogres, that would be very cool indeed. But we might just see them as normal with similar price tag, because 12 of those guys will be powerful, but we'll probably see them only as mounts to some of the units, some of the heroes. Then we have the flying units, and we are starting with Pterodon Riders. Those guys are basically skinks on the Pterodons, and interesting option to say at least. They should really not be as powerful as, say, Vargheists. So I'm not sure really about the size of those guys. I mean, might be 12 and they will be very cheap, or 24 or even 60. depending on how strong those guys will be. They are only skinks. I would prefer this unit to be 24 size and having a price tag of, let's say, 700. Then they would be an interesting option that you can fight the Var guys. For example, obviously not with a single unit, but you can actually take down some of the enemy units, like a Felbats, for example, or you can chase down the Warcow Riders from the elves. So, but obviously inferior to those units still. For 12 models in a unit, those guys will be dirty cheap, which also could be useful, like, you know, the bats basically. And then we have, if those guys will be 60, then they should be a proper force to be reckoned with, costing, like, being able to take on Var guys costing more than 1000, but I don't think that will happen in the Total War game really. But what is interesting, that we actually have upgraded versions of those guys, and there are Reaper Ductiles. So should we have 24 units of them, the Reaper Ductiles would cost 1000 and should be able to at least, you know, take a fight to the Var guys. And obviously if those guys would be 16 unit, they should be really good, like Pegasus Knights good, obviously, but Pegasus you only have a few, those guys you will have many, but still. I'm not really sure what Creative Assembly will do with those guys. So yeah, but I see them as 12, 24 or 60 units strength. There might be some variation, we will see, depending on what developers want to do with them, but it would be nice to have a decent flying force with the lizardmen, because we are seeing more and more flying units. Like we've seen Feral Manticores very recently, and we will see more. With the Regiments of Renown we have some additional bombers for dwarves, and yeah, there is pretty much everyone has some kind of flying force. It would be nice to see lizardmen be able to compete, especially that with those DLC will be coming some high elves and some dark elves that also will have capability of dealing with those guys. Then we have artillery, and artillery for the lizardmen are salamanders. Salamanders are able to hurl fire at decent range at the enemy, so they will be like mini hell cannons. Would be fun to see actually, and obviously 4 of them in a unit, having range obviously less than 400, because, you know, while the salamanders do hurl that things on the decent range, it's not a cannon. And there is even more interesting and powerful option that I'm really not sure how the Creative Assembly will manage to implement it, because the Razor Doors here are actually shooting like razor similar, I mean like a swarm of missiles into the enemy, and that was not really implemented before, and I'm mentioning this in previous speculation videos when we were talking about grape shots, for example. So like Leadbelchers from the Ogre Kingdoms do have cannons, but they are shooting grape shots from them, and this will be similar. Pretty interested how this would be implemented in the Total War Warhammer really, but those guys will obviously be also 4 in a unit and will be shooting some kind of projectiles at the enemy, possibly at much lower range than the salamanders. Then let's go for the heroes, and starting with your standard caster, this is Skink Priest. Skink Priests can, however, be mounted at some creatures, including Ancient Stegadon you've seen before, with the Ancient of Gods. I don't think that will be an option in Total War Warhammer really, because that would make like your standard low power caster unit suddenly a combat monster. And I don't think it will be the case because in tabletop you actually pay for both the mant and the man, or lizard in this case. In Total War Warhammer, if you upgrade it, yes, you do pay for it in multiplayer, but in campaign that would be enormous cost. And I don't really see Creative Assembly make a 1000 mount in multiplayer, although it would be really fun, I admit, but I don't think that will be the case. Not really, no. Then we have Skink Chiefs, and Skink Chiefs can also be mounted on the several different creatures, and that includes Stegodons, Ancient Stegodons, and Pterodons. So you can have a flying guy. And that's a very cool option, and I would really like to see those guys in a game. I'm not sure if we will do because of the next hero, but the melee hero that have so many mount options but are not actually that strong would be really cool. I would like to see that. And then we are going to the proper melee force, and these are Saurus Scarred Veterans. Saurus Scarred Veterans are your rank and file melee heroes. They are powerful, really powerful, like Exalted Hero level powerful, and they can mount a Cold One or the Carnosaurus. Carnosaurus is actually a more powerful version of a Cold One, and it looks absolutely awesome. You must admit that. I mean, it's amazing, right? So yeah, that might be and is something I would really like to see in a game. And that would be very cool hero, although probably quite expensive, similar to, say, some of the heroes on the Royal Pegasus, possibly, or the Manticores or something like that. Then we have Lord level characters, starting from the Saurus Oldblood. Saurus Oldblood can also mount a Cold One or the Carnosaurus. And yeah, Carnosaurus obviously. So very powerful mounts, very powerful melee heroes. Would really like to see them in the battle. But they are not that interesting as much as the next guys, because Lord level character for the lizardmen when it comes to the casters are the Slan Mage Priests. Now Slan Mage Priests are the most powerful mages in the Warhammer universe. So crazy powerful. They are moving on this platform called Palanquin. They are basically levitating, and they are ancient, like really ancient, like thousands of years ancient. Every single one of them. Very powerful casters. In the tabletop they actually have access to everything, which is very interesting. I'm not sure which lores of magic will those guys be able to get in the Total War Warhammer, but I'm hoping at least 2, similar to say Karstein. Manfred von Karstein have 2 different lores of magic, so I'm hoping those guys on the basic will have at least 2, would be really cool. And yeah, and that's pretty much all for the generic characters. Let's go to the possible legendary lords. And yeah, I have to start with the Lord Krog, who used to be the most powerful Slann Mage priest in existence, and then he died, and then he became the most powerful animated corpse in the existence. So his soul is bound to his corpse by some skink priest that he actually sacrificed himself, and when it happened, the skink priest kind of saw him in together, and yeah, he was bounded by the others, and he still kinda lives. And I'm not really sure if he will be for the lizardmen, if he will be faction leader, because it's really hard to say, because next lord is more like a real faction leader. Slann Mage priests are slightly weird, so yeah. But this guy is absolutely awesome, and I would really like to see him in the actual game. And I'm pretty sure I will see him. Next guy is Lord Muzamundi. He is considered to be a leader of the lizardmen right now, so he most likely will be a faction leader. His mount is a stegadon called Zlag. Is thought to be the biggest and baddest stegadon around, although he actually is missing some of the cool abilities that other ancient stegadons have, so that's bummer, but still a very cool mount for a lord. And Muzamundi is one of the most powerful Slann mages in existence. I mean, a live one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will be the faction leader, and he's actually starting from his city is the city of Itza, which should be kind of a capital of lizardmen. I would really like to see him in action, but both him and his mount would be pretty awesome in the actual combat. In the tabletop, his price tag is making you not want to take him because it's like over 700, so that's like entire army pretty much in some cases. Then we have some absolutely amazing Saurus, and this guy is Kroggar. He has actually a Carnosaurus mount that is mounted and is called Grimlog, I believe his name was. And would also be very fun to see him in a combat. I mean, I'm pretty sure he would wreck pretty much everything. I mean, those guys, you have to understand that the normal Old Blood has in tabletop the skill of 10. 10 out of 10. So, yeah, pretty much making like Elf Swordmaster trying to master the swordsmanship for the thousands of years looks like a newbies. So, yeah, would be pretty. I'm actually really excited for the Carnosaurus, Cold Ones and Lizardmen to see them in general in the game, so I won't be repeating myself. Nothing special about those guys. They actually do have lots of special abilities, just we won't see them in Total War Warhammer because they never are implemented. Still, a fun character to play with. Another guy is Chakax, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who is also a beast melee leader that is named character and is quite powerful in the tabletop. We might see him, however, I'm actually doubting it, because the other characters are so much more interesting, including Krogar, so yeah. But I'm mentioning for the completeness. And there is also Teto Echo. He is the only skink priest that is actually traveling on the palanquin, and also a very interesting character, because we've seen Skarsnik, for example, for the greenskins. We might see this guy also. He's very cool, basically, and I would like to see him. I'm not sure how many legendary characters there will be for the lizardmen, and I'm afraid if there will be only 2 or 3, those guys will be Muzamundi, Croak, and the Krogar. But I will be happy to see 3, don't get me wrong, but this guy is also pretty cool. And he is powerful caster on his own. And then we have another one of many named characters that I decided to pick. Oxioth is a chameleon skink that is actually like an assassin that for hundreds of years was traveling through chaos domains, and assassinating demons. Would be very cool to see this guy in action. Yeah, one of the most interesting ones, for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm really excited to play the lizardmen. I'm pretty sure we will have them. And as you can see, we have many interesting options. There are still some things that nags me about size of the Pterodon riders and their effectiveness, because different sizes will make them very variably used. I mean, one from the very lower tier level unit that you would use almost as a wolf riders, to very nice unit that you can use in similar way to the Var guys. So very excited to see that. And that's pretty much it. I hope you like it. If you did, press like, comment if you will, and see my other videos, my DLC analysis and DLC speculation videos, my mechanics videos for Total War Warhammer and Total War series in general, but also my Let's Plays in Total War series and other games. Thank you for watching, and see you.